Yeah, SET4SPORT is very much a collection of some of the games and things that we dreamed up as a family when Jamie and Andy were growing up. And we had the opportunity to put it together as a website, a book, and actually an app for iPhone and iPad and we were able to offer it as a free resource because of the backing of RBS, who have been one of Jamie and Andy's sponsors for many years now, and they were very keen to help us to develop what could be seen as a free community program that encourages parents to play actively with their kids at home, whether that's in the house or in the garden, using pretty much anything that you've got lying around, but playing in such a way that you're actually helping them to develop the physical skills that they would need in order to play whatever sport they fancied later in life, because it's all about learning to be well coordinated in those early stages, in those early days. So it's really it's a resource for parents, and of course the sort of second thing about that, as well as developing the physical skills and their love of being active, is families playing together, because so many of the things that kids play with nowadays, the trendy things, they're all sitting down and play on your own, PlayStations and Wii's and computers and kind of handheld things. So
do you think we've lost a bit of that then? I mean, everyone talks in very general terms about couch potato kids and maybe their parents as well were down there. I mean, do you think we've have lost something through the ages?
Yes, I think we have. I mean, life has changed, and nowadays parents in general have less time. It's more the case that both parents work. They maybe have less free time, but perhaps they have more disposable income to pay other people to play with their kids or to enroll their kids into classes and things. So for me, I came from a very sporty family, so it's kind of second nature to me to want to play actively with my kids.
Were your parents sporty with you as well? Then?
Yes, they were very sporty. So I guess you kind of pass on what you learned as a child growing up and what you enjoyed. So for me it was just a question of thinking back to some of these things that we used to play, and most of them we made up ourselves, because the best games are always the ones you make up yourselves, but it's not every parent that has the imagination or has had the experience in their own life of doing things like that. So when we got the opportunity to put it all together and to be able to offer it as a free resource, we jumped at the chance, and that's how SET4SPORT was born.
Yes, I remember hitting a tennis ball against a wall myself, for hours and hours and hours, and imagining that I was Borg. Unfortunately, I never turned out to be. But but they say that the most, I think you've said in the past, that the most basic arenas offer the best lessons. Is that what you mean by that? You can use almost anything if you've got the imagination to use it in order to develop those vital sporting skills.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the most fun things that we used to play. When you live in Scotland, it rains a lot of the time, so you're indoors. You've maybe not got an awful lot of space, and we had a small kitchen table, and we would use little cereal boxes across the middle to make a net, and we'd have biscuit tin lids and a ping pong ball, and we had our own, used to call it cereal ping pong. But for the cost of a ping pong ball, which would be about 20p, you've got a great fun game, and you don't even need the biscuit tin lid. You can actually play something like that with your hand, when it's a small space, and you don't even need a table. You can actually play that sitting on the floor as well, if you've got a hardish surface. So it really was just about using your imagination, and if you can think of a sport or like even creating our own obstacle courses around the living room. I mean, it's amazing what you can do. That develops coordination skills, balance, agility, all the things that you need to be competent at if you're going to have a chance to play sport at a reasonable level later on.
I suppose one of the issues here is that we've got these adults as well as children have got these electronic devices, and we let them interrupt our lives, and we all feel that we haven't actually got time to just sit down and focus on these things. I mean, do you think the two things go hand in hand then? Obviously you've got the using everyday objects, but also, for goodness sake, just switch off those electronic devices and so on. I mean, one impedes the other a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to stick on a DVD or tell your child to go and play with the PlayStation or the computer games. That's an easy solution, but I do think nowadays, we do have a responsibility as parents to help our kids to develop a healthier and more active lifestyle. So, if you start off doing this with them at a young age and they learn to love running around and inventing their own games, it becomes a way of life. But it does require some effort on the part of parents to actually do that.
Yeah, and I suppose the earlier you can get them, okay, some of these skills are natural, but some of them are developing. I know that you've talked about, well, it's not quite an ABC. I think you were saying it was a BCA: balance, coordination, and agility. I mean, why did you pick on those three in terms of whether you're good at whether that helps you to develop your sporting ability or not?
I think those are pretty standard. I mean, they're called the ABCs of sport, and obviously because ABC, agility, balance, coordination. Yeah. And as you say, within the SET4SPORT program, I've said that, in my opinion, you should try to focus on the balance first, because it doesn't matter how coordinated a child is if they're not well balanced. The coordination perhaps doesn't work so well. So, to help them to learn to balance themselves and understand how their body works first, and then to develop the coordination and then the agility. And like what you were talking about with hitting a ball against a wall is a great thing for developing agility and little adjustment steps around the wall, because whether you're throwing it at the wall, kicking it along the ground at a wall, or hitting it with a bat against a wall, it comes off at different speeds. You have to accommodate your footsteps and your body to get behind the ball to be able to catch it, or to position yourself to be able to send it back straight. And the wall, or the game, is actually teaching you how to do that. Yes. And kids that with this sort of stuff, kids are learning for themselves without even realising they're learning, because they're just having fun.
Yeah. Can we just talk about a couple of I mean, this is not just a sort of set of principles that you're talking about, they're actually games, and I would advise anybody to download this or get it in any of the many forms it's available. I mean, one of my favourites was Jumping the River and Double Trouble, but I mean, could you just maybe sort of pick a few of your faves?
Yeah, well, we tried to turn as many of the little sort of, what you might call them exercises, but we tried to turn them into games, because you're dealing with young children, and if they feel like it's a game and you bring it to life, they're far more likely to get into it. So with something like Jumping the River, we stick a couple of bits of rope down in the garden, and you jump from one side of the rope over to the other. But you can, and once you've jumped it, you can take a run up and jump over it. You could hop over it with your right leg, hop over it with your left leg. Because it's important to do things with both sides of the body to make sure that the right side and the left side are both strengthened and coordinated, that your child doesn't become one side dominant, which often happens, that they tend to do more with the side that they write with, for example, the side that they feel more comfortable with. But in most sports, you need to be able to coordinate both sides of your body. So if you're playing golf or hockey, for example, you need both hands on the stick. Both hands need to be able to work. Same with something like netball, you have to catch the ball with both hands. So with Jumping the River, you jump over it, and once you've jumped over it without obviously landing in your imaginary river, you just move one of the pieces of rope, so you make it a little bit bigger. You can use a ruler or a tape measure, so you could measure how far you've jumped on any particular day, so that you have a personal best, for example. But you can bring that game so much more to life by sticking a couple of toy sharks in between the two pieces of rope, and suddenly it becomes you're jumping the shark-infested waters, and that becomes so much more exciting. Or you stick a hoop over the other side of the rope, so that you're running over, you're avoiding the shark-infested waters, and you're landing in the safety of the boat at the other side. Yeah. Maybe you land in the boat at the other side, and your mum or dad is beyond the boat, and they're throwing something to you, and we used to use like a soft toy, because when kids are small, it's easier for them to grab on and catch a soft toy that's got arms and legs than it is to catch a ball. And once they get the confidence of catching something quite easily, then it becomes easier to throw a ball, for example. So it's run up, jump over the shark-infested waters, land in the boat, and save the toy dog or save the baby. could be throwing a doll, and it becomes a story. So it's kind of like putting a story around the game. So like I said before, that the kids are having fun and they are learning these physical skills without even realising they're learning them.
Yes, and I think it kind of leads me neatly to another question in the way that I really enjoy playing these games, but I'm worrying that I'm just enjoying them a bit too much. Am I? And I suppose the question is really, to what extent is the parent a catalyst in order setting the game up, establishing the principles, helping them get over certain glitches or disputes about the rules, and then quietly walks away to make the tea, or whilst they get on with it. And to what extent should the parent be actively involved in this? I suspect I'm a bit too interventionist on this, but what, do you have any sort of, when you were guiding Jamie and Andy, did you sort of have any sort of started off then slip into the background policy towards it?
Yeah, I would say when they were very small, it was probably definitely the catalyst to setting things up. But actually, once they got into the way of doing it, they were great at inventing their own games and obviously their own sets of rules. And I have to say, Jamie tells lots of stories about how Andy would very conveniently change the rules at any point in which he happened to be losing. But I think that's the thing about putting in some kind of scoring system. Of course, you can play without any kind of scoring system at all, but if they're going to go into some sport at any point, then they need to know how to score a point. They need to know how to negotiate an obstacle, or keep a ball within some white lines, or pass it over a net, or kick it into a goal. And there needs to be some kind of reward for that. So whether you've got a blackboard that, your kids have got a blackboard in their room that you can bring out, and you start to teach them how to score a point when they, hit a target, or you're writing down how far they've jumped over the river, then that becomes something where they can see, wow, look, I did, and it becomes a sense of achievement. And obviously, if you have other siblings like Jamie had with Andy, or Andy had with Jamie, then they start to enjoy that sort of competitive side of it. But definitely, as they got older, help them to set things up and kind of leave them to it a bit. But when they were younger, I was probably very, very involved because I enjoyed it. Like you, I got really into it. I liked being able to run around and jump around with them, and they liked to be able to do things with you. They liked to be able to try to beat you at things. And I think as the parent, kids learn so much by copying that if you can show them how to jump or how to throw, you might not even be telling them how to do it. You just might be doing it correctly, and they copy you. Yeah. So the parents are absolutely crucial. And I think with all of the games that are in the SET4SPORT program, you don't have to be sporty in any way. They're all very, very simple, and anyone can do them. And certainly what we've realised from the road shows that we've done around the country, that the parents who come along with the kids and start to do them, they can't believe how simple they are, and not just to play but to set up. And we're able to give them, you say, well, actually with jumping the river, it's a really good one for developing leg strength, for example. It's a great one for developing balance, particularly if you try and get them to jump the river and not fall over at the other side. So it's jump and try and hold that pose when you get to the other side. So you're trying to show them that the game can teach the kids all sorts of things. But for me, the program is so much about parents playing with their kids.
Yeah, and one of these moments is going to be coming up in many households. Well, almost all households in the summer. Obviously there's the very important Wimbledon coming up, but this year is an extra special year because of the Olympics. And if we move on to that, I mean, there's a kind of flame of enthusiasm that's going to sort of sweep through many households, and it could pass very quickly if it's not sort of captured. I mean, would you say it's probably as important for us parents to sort of seize the moment with our children as it is for children themselves to, particularly maybe those, as you said, that aren't as sporty sort of historically, but maybe despite themselves actually realise that this is an opportunity.
Yeah, I think obviously the Olympics is going to be 24/7 on TV, and the kids are going to be primed about it through school. I know the event is during the school holidays, but there's going to be so much buzz about it, and it's a perfect opportunity to pop the television on, and maybe you see somebody, I don't know, doing the long jump, and then you go and do the long jump in the garden through jumping the river, for example. You know, it's exactly the same thing. You take a run up to it, jump over, try and make it a little bit bigger, and write your score down and see how far you'd be able to jump, and hear them talking on the television about the world record and the personal best. Well, it can be your house record or your personal best.
Yes, yes.
And you can start to just use a little bit of imagination to create your own little mini Olympics in the garden. I mean, it's a fantastic idea, and I think you could, you know, the SET4SPORT program has, I think it has 16 games in it now, but they all have different variations on them. But, you know, there is no end to the sort of games that you can dream up with your kids, and the best ones will always be the ones that they find themselves through playing. You know, it's just tinkering with things and finding things that, you know, that capture your attention or your imagination. Yeah. But it is about being creative and finding the time to just get out and play with your kids.
Yes, I think I'll order in some chocolate gold medals as well to finish off with. I mean, after 16 sports, a decathlon and a half, we'll do the lot. I think sort of during. That's about the length of the Olympics, so maybe we'll do one of those a day or something like that. And